We should be maybe a little bit concerned about actually becoming too much of a.
Yeah, guys. So, hi, guys. I'm not sure if you've seen it before, but Elon Musk at the World Government Summit was talking about how much he thinks world government is a bad idea, and he even says it. Like, I didn't show the clip, but if you watch the clip, he even said, too much cooperation is a bad thing, and it's kind of one thing that I hear a lot, and a lot of nationalists and a lot of big people in the government and corporations say, well, we shouldn't want too much cooperation. And it's kind of weird because capitalism is supposed to be a constant state of conflict, and that constant state of conflict is good for our society and improves wages. And it's kind of what ends up happening. Actually, is like if you look at Lenin and imperialism, it's monopolies start forming up, and these large monopolies, like we see it today. There's not really small businesses anymore. It's all huge multinational corporations taking over our lives, and they're controlling right at the top and controlling all of us. And what it becomes is then it becomes in a slight few hands. And the thing of not too much cooperation is that they're afraid if governments come together instead of separately, they'll lose their power. And generally, a one world government would probably become socialist or communist. And of course, my view is also it wouldn't be good for capitalists or good for men like Elon Musk. And it's also that problem of people not wanting to relinquish control. So it's like too much cooperation is bad. And I think later on he makes an argument about the Roman Empire, empires in the past cooperating too much. Like, there's not really been too much cooperation. There's been so little cooperation, and that's the problem. Like the Westphalia peace treaty signed so long ago in Europe, all it did was prevent them from attacking each other. So then they went to these other countries, start fighting proxy wars. And it's the same things with NATO and like Russia and the US. Instead of actually fighting them themselves, they use other people who are defenseless and do proxy wars against them. And it's seen through all these new wars going on, is that they're not actually having to do with the people. It's just proxy wars. And I think what he says, too much cooperation is a bad thing, is that's exactly what you don't want to happen, like men like Elon Musk. Because you know what? In this world, there are so many scientists working on the exact same thing, and they're hoping to work on it first, or doing slight variations, when if they all came together, they could A, get it done a lot faster, and B, just one service, one product, instead of having so many you don't know what to choose. Like, it's a valid point. In this day and age, so many choices have actually been proven to limit us. Like, I'm not sure if you ever been at a restaurant or something, and you see all these choices, and you're like, mind blocked, because you have no idea what to choose, because it's just so much. And it's kind of what a big problem about people say about social media things is it's a sensory overload, or too much information, or too many choices. But I think it's not social media. It's too many choices on the internet. Like, if we just had one platform, like, let's say just TikTok. We just had TikTok. Or something like that. Or we had, like, what China had in Weibo. It'd be so much easier since we just have one service. We don't have to worry about all these other services. It's not taking so much of our time. And the thing is, this conflict, it's not really helping society. It's not really helping people. It's helping big corporations. Like, cooperation, the only thing cooperation is detrimental to is corporations and people making the money in government. And it's why we could talk about in my racism and colonialism class, the reason why Africa is there's been so many attempts to unite Africa, but the thing what the West did very well is they implemented nationalist ideologies which keep these countries working together. And it's why they will never rise up, and the US and Western world and multinational corporations will keep on using them and stealing the resources, and making sure that they can never go up in the economy. And that's what they want. It's even why African countries are so small, and in a lot of countries that have now been decolonized, they're so small because if they're all fractured, they can't rise together and they can't fight back against the system. And it's kind of like neocolonialism is just colonialism in a new face. They basically went, well, yeah, we'll get rid of colonialism and then we'll make it much worse. Like, it's, people actually say it was at least better in those days in a sense, because at least you knew where they were coming from and people were accountable. Because it was, let's say, the British government. You knew the British were doing it, and the citizens, the British had to please their citizens so that they wouldn't riot up against us. But the thing with corporations and what we're seeing today in the world is that, well, we don't agree with these corporations are doing. There's so many protests about corporations. But the thing is, governments won't get involved, and we can't yell at the government because they have nothing to do with them. Like, at least we knew where the money was going. It was going to Britain, with companies who were affiliated with Britain. But the thing is, the US literally doesn't even tax any of their corporations. So it's kind of like this money isn't even ours anymore. We don't know where this money is going. It's going right into their hands. The quote billionaires have a higher net worth than the GDP of a country. Like, how in any world is that justifiable? Now, I know people work hard, but you know how you work hard and you get to the top? You have to exploit other people. Like, we talk about pyramid schemes. The whole world is a pyramid scheme. You have to exploit other people to get to the top. And I think what we don't understand is that when people such as Elon Musk or governments are so much on nationalist pride, which doesn't even make any sense, because nationalism isn't inherent, it's a construct. It's a social construct. And generally, what in countries like Canada, US, is you're going against traditional ways of tribes who had so much land and now it's been divided. And it's actually not talked about, but there's a lot of issues with certain tribes because they're fighting against two governments because they want to freely flow throughout the spaces, and they can't because of restrictions placed by, to them, a foreign government. Like, it's not their own people, and they said you have to deal with this. And it's this whole problem with this nationalist, and now people who come from other countries, immigrants, they're being attacked when it's not, like, it's what bothers me most when I hear about people going, immigrants taking our jobs and working for less. You know, they only work for less because they don't expect much, because they come from countries where the US and other corporations are literally making them work to the bone and they work for so little, and basically they just are happy for anything they can get. And so the thing is, why are you attacking these immigrants or refugees who literally have no choice, instead of attacking the corporations that are paying them such low prices? Why don't you attack the people who won't give you a job because they have to pay more? Like, I've heard recently, because China is starting to have worker rights and increasing minimum wage, Apple is considering, well, too much money for us now, let's make the most profit we can, so we'll go to another country with lax laws. So it's like this whole vision of human rights and universality. It only applies to these Western governments, and they don't care about other people. And it's what I say, this nationalist conflict is only hurting, I don't say subordinate, but less developed people, or people who don't have the same income as these countries, and who were formerly colonized countries. And they're now, like, they're just working them to the bone and stealing their resources. And they're saying, well, this is how it's supposed to be. This is a great system. This liberalist ideology, neoliberalism, it's so great. And this neoliberal economy, when all it is benefiting Westerners and benefiting the global north and not helping the global south. So I just want to tell you, when people like this tell you cooperation isn't good, they're not saying it because they're trying to help you. They're saying it because they don't want you to help them yourself.